Hey guys, it's Spoot from Fort Misery Gaming. We're hanging out talking to our new buddy Rasper Nor, who is a well. Tell him about yourself. Go ahead and give us the 411.
Sure, I'll be happy to. So, my name is Rasper Nor. I am the guild master of the guild Empty Set, and we're a SinoAlice guild. We are definitively casual, as in showing up to Colo is optional. Discord is optional, and we largely don't use it. Um, we just insist that you log in at least once every 3 days or give notice. So, very casual. We are currently A. We just had a time in S, believe it or not, and we got stomped 0-5 against teams with well above double our points. So SinoAlice is in a really strange spot right now for us.
And this is something that I have talked about on several occasions, and that a couple of our viewers have been interested in. Is and Tachi specifically, we had this very long conversation about this actually. Is that it would be nice to look at Sino from a not top 100 competitive perspective, because it's at specifically your level. Not saying that I am a high level or significantly higher level than you are by any stretch. Um, it's a different game for you guys than it is for us.
100%. 100%. And I understand that, like, that's what people want to watch. They want to watch the people who have expensive accounts, high level, that are competing well. Nobody wants to watch our guild play, but it's still
Well, I
fun
mean,
being in the guild.
your
And
guild
so,
play
but
is
I guess,
probably closer to fair or honest, though. Like, there's not as much variance if you
sure.
guys are going toe to toe with somebody close to you.
Yeah. Well, but then, like, whether or not people show up is a
Yeah,
huge difference. Like, the wrong people don't show, and suddenly, like, we could be killed by potatoes. And that's
yeah. We had that
that's kind of the way Sinnoh is.
we have three clerics and cool kids, which is the guild I'm in right now. And the other day we had two of them that had like crazy ass family emergencies. I'm like, I don't even know if it's worth the rest of us showing up. We can't stay up. And sure enough, we were down like 600k by like the 5 minute mark. And like, just fuck it, just give it to them. Just fuck it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we can't heal enough to keep up. So what does it matter? So
Yep.
Rasper reached out because he had some thoughts on some of the topics we have spoken about, and I thought a lot of it was at least topical and definitely a good counterculture to what like me and Tachi talk about, which tends to, or like when me and Demic talk competitive, because it's a very different scene for like anybody between me and Rasper, very specifically. So we've talked about free to play expectations before, how the game is not necessarily built in a manner that makes free to play easy to accomplish or climbing easy to do. So, what is your general take on like the free to play approach?
I feel that being free to play can be fun, especially if you understand that you are going to win approximately half of your games through most of it, because that's the way that promotion relegation works. Is that you're going to eventually be sorted where you belong, and there's going to be lots of hiccups because either you or your opponent, you're going to have shifts in like your output. Somebody went real hard on the gotcha this week, and suddenly your guild's way more powerful than what your ratings suggest. Three people didn't show up for your opponent, suddenly you just beat somebody who you shouldn't have on paper. Like, I think it's fun to have that kind of unexpectedness. And like, even though you see what's coming at Colo, you don't really know what's going to actually happen. So you come anyway and you have fun. And then when things don't work out, you just tell your friends that it's been fun. And then you do some PvE or conquest or something after. Like, it, if you don't have your heart set on winning, and you're not, and you can avoid being heartbroken and let down when things don't go your way, I think that there's a lot for you in Sinnoh that doesn't come out in content because it's boring content.
Yeah, and I think and that's something that we on especially on the State of Sino videos have had longer conversations on is how do you approach the game when um, it's not a particularly depthy game. Like the formula for the game was figured out really easy, and PVE isn't outside of like what conquests, I guess maybe. Um, like the figuring it out period of the game has already occurred and happened pretty rapidly, I guess, if we're being honest. Most people understood how the game worked within the first couple of weeks, and like at this point, it's just a numbers game. Like as long as you can qualify your CP for an event, you just do the event. That's what it is.
Yep, I largely agree with that. I think with free to play, it's almost fun when you have a group that doesn't like constantly share back and forth all the latest like big numbers and charts. And I guess I kind of appreciate that almost, which is it probably sounds super strange to anybody who's actually try hard. But like um, most of my guild members, I'm the one to tell them like, oh, this is actually how your points work, or this is how your skills work. This is why skills are important. This is like, it's not like I'll still some concepts that are so basic, like having still have one hammer in my grid even as a paladin. It's the near one that has like 2,000 magic attack, right?
Yeah, I remember that one.
And the DC too. So I have that, and I recently was talking about this with one of my members because they didn't understand that like that item, even though it hits like a wet noodle in a magic build, it has made all of my other weapons significantly better, more than like an SR magic weapon.
Yeah, just the stats alone are significantly more valuable than maybe how it hits.
And it's because your skills they do damage based on a percentage of the actual magic attack total. Like everything in the grid is benefiting from that magic attack,
Yeah.
not just when I hit with that weapon.
No, I mean that's something that a lot of players, even at higher ends, like there are so many things that you have to so going from Zen Gang to Elite to Cool Kids, the amount of information people have at their hands or things that they intrinsically understand about Sino is different from guild to guild to guild. And it's kind of crazy having been in so many guilds with like so many different experiences. Whereas you guys have mostly been together since the start, right?
Actually, I've had people come and go. Believe it or not, with as easy as our requirements are, we've gone through about 6 or 7 people who eventually just quit playing. I guess they didn't enjoy it, which is fine. I had even had a couple of people who felt that they really wanted to compete and they actually wanted to strategize. I think something that is make or break for my guild, perhaps for some people, is that we have a real insistence that nobody bosses anyone else around. Like, even I don't get to say, you will do this to your grid. I want you to have this nightmare, and I expect it to happen. Like, that's just not how it works. I'll sometimes talk about why when somebody uses, for example, Mal Archelon when we're ahead, and I go, oh, that's not
That's not how
very
that works.
helpful.
Yeah.
Right? So like there are moments when we talk about strategy and teaching, but like if he kept casting it that way because he wants to be a free spirit, like it's okay because we I felt like for me, and coming from some other games very competitively, like even a fairly competitive WoW Classic guild, I felt like it was more important to maintain good relations and that everybody's having fun than Kahlo success. And Sino makes it easy for us. Like honestly, the rewards of failure versus participation in Kahlo are pretty decent. Like you can keep losing and it's still worth coming as far as tablets and charm medals for somebody who's not paying money and has ample access to those.
Oh, absolutely. No, no, I could respect that.
In
So,
some ways, I think SinoAlice is better balanced for casuals. It's just not talked about.
well, I mean, I guess it sort of depends on what's your drill down definition for balance, so to speak, because like the
Absolutely.
game plays the same at every level. Yeah, that never changes intrinsically, but the approach to the game is very different at different levels, I guess is what it is.
But like the recent initiative they had a few months ago where they put a bunch of L weapons in the training section, like that whole section of content is completely useless to anybody wanting to be like even semi-competitive. I would say those items are going out of the grid pretty quick because they are pretty low on stats for an L and their skills are largely mediocre. Like,
Oh yeah, I mean, I still use the instrument because it's a double attack up, but
oh, okay, I guess maybe they're a point, but like
well, I
if you
mean
were a
the
hard
gotcha
spender, I don't think you're keeping them.
the gotcha gods. We talked about this a little bit off camera. Unfortunately, it doesn't really matter how much money you spend. You are still a slave to the gacha gods. So if they don't give you
True.
what you need to do specific things, you do sort of have to make concessions here or there. Like, unless you're spending a ridiculous amount of money on Sino, you may not necessarily get to do exactly what it was you were planning on doing.
Agreed. Agreed. But I think that that promotion they had, it disproportionately benefits people who are casual non-spenders.
Well, I mean, you need, and this is something that I think we can shift into a little bit in a couple of minutes.
Okay.
Like the onboarding specifically, like how do you get new players to the point of playing the game how they want to play it? Like if they come in wanting to be kind of competitive or semi-competitive or competitive, or even if they come in like if you're coming in being casual, you can play the game from day one. It doesn't matter. You're good to go. But if you want to even start kind of doing Calo, it's kind of a steep uphill climb for the most part.
Yes and no. I think that this is where the guild um, like format really helps benefit you because even if you are starting out in like a C B tier guild, you're like under 80k or even significantly less. Like you can be really underpowered if you find a guild who will take you because honestly they don't have a full roster, and so something is better than nothing, especially if somebody's active.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
you can
I
be
would I
carrying
would take an active person 40k less than the person who doesn't show up. Like 100%.
100%. Yep, absolutely. And so like there's opportunity for that. And if you are really underpowered for where that guild is, you're only 1/15th of the team. Are you a detriment? Perhaps, but it's not going to be that serious unless you are like somehow tossed into an S guild and they won't take. Like I don't think that that's going to be too much of a problem actually going into Calo. Like the beginning quests are like participate in Calo, and
Yeah.
the beauty is you don't have to win
You
Calo
just have to log
to
in
get in the
during
team. You
call.
just have to go and play. And you
Yeah.
can, and you know what? I remember when I first played Calo, like the very first week or two, I had a blast. I lost a ton,
Yeah, I
but it was so much fun.
the very staggering thing about Sino is the PvP experience is very unique in the gotcha circles. Like there are very few live PvPs, and there are even fewer 15 on 15 PvPs. So I do appreciate that they have given us a system that we have not necessarily seen before. And while I do think it does require a bit of fine tuning to get more people at to the point of where they can experience what I mean. Because the PvP is the only reason I play the game. Like I like the story and I like the characters and like I'll play anything in the Taroverse, but like I wouldn't be spending near as much time on this game if it didn't have the PvP in it.
Okay, yep, that makes sense to me. I really love PvP too. In fact, I believe it is also my favorite part of the game, also as well. But I also really appreciate like the aesthetics, even the story mode, like the monsters, the first time you see them are interesting. It's almost a shame that that it is so repetitive that
Yeah.
things almost lose their beauty because you've seen it for literally the thousandth time.
Well, and
Uh,
that sort of turns into the issue of the MMO gotcha, kind of what we were talking about earlier. When the grinding is the mechanic of the game that leads to success, you
mhm.
end up seeing that mechanic a lot, and some people do not like that mechanic.
Yeah, yep, I agree. I feel like they've kind of worked themselves into a hole a little bit with the design simply because the bosses they're limited in the amount of variety they can have because bosses are actually acquirable items
Yeah.
at the end of conflict. And so they can only have so much design space and availability with those. And so like I remember when Sinnoh first launched, people were disappointed with how much they rehashed the same monster, but it's honestly a reappearance of a chance to get that nightmare item, right?
Yeah.
So I think it takes a little if you don't have understanding of how nightmares work in your first week or two, I could definitely see how that would give you the wrong impression and maybe be a turnoff. If like the aesthetics and excitement of new things in PvE is a factor for you.
Yeah, I mean, and I think there are degrees of success there that Sino has done very well, and it's always a
Mhm.
double-edged sword. Like there are so many things that Sino has gotten right, and there are so many things that Sino has gotten wrong, and that's not a Poke Labo exclusive. Like every gotcha company does that.
even every, in my opinion, JRPG kind of runs into this issue of, is it a button masher? Is it a menu simulator? Like, at what point is it just a matter of whether or not you've got the equipment and you just push the buttons and kill the things? I mean,
Yeah, and also depending
people.
on how much the game plays itself, like a la like
Mhm.
Final Fantasy 12 or Final Fantasy 13, for example.
Compared to, say, Final Fantasy 7.
Exactly.
Like
Very
7.
very different experiences.
And I feel like Final Fantasy kind of evolved a little bit in response to that. But like Seven's a classic. It absolutely is. But like, if you're following somebody on stream and they're between story elements, it's slow.
Well, yeah, the progression is just non-existent. You're just like, all right, well, let's go fight some more snakes, and you're like, okay.
Mhm. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I would bet a lot of successful content creators for these kinds of games, they do a lot of that grinding off camera because it's not what people log in for.
Oh,
Or
absolutely. Like, there's no high energy moments. It just kind of sucks. That's why, like, I prefer narrative games that don't necessarily have a level system. So it's just, can you get to X or Y point?
Yep.
Um,
So oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh no, no, you're fine. So the other couple of like base Sino things that I wanted Rasper to kind of speak on. So like the
Mm,
AP ceiling is something that I have kind of had an argument against for a long time. Because no matter what point you are in the game, um, so the ceiling is what, three times your level now?
Yeah. So if you're playing the game normally and not just burning Puri tickets, I think it's impossible to accidentally like screw up your juggling AP and
Yeah.
have lost some if you're actually using it as you Puri.
And even at my level where I'm purifying almost exclusively for experience, um, I think that the AP ceiling is just a weird leftover mechanic from like there is no if you had 6,000 AP in Sinnoh tomorrow, for example, I would do almost nothing with it. Like the AP ceiling really only exists for your first couple of weeks in the game, and then you're just kind of a slave to when you pull a new weapon. So either
Sure.
you have done your gorillas every day, and when you get a new weapon, it is maxed, or you're like me and you do nothing outside of the
Uh
game.
huh.
And when you get a new weapon, you're like, well, shit, now I gotta go get more swords. So,
So maybe I'm a special case in regards to this because um, if I had 6,000 AP, I'd go straight to those evergreen like resource generators and I just dump. And at 6,000, like it's getting to the point where our ceiling is high enough that you have to honestly play like what, 6 or 7 rounds before you run through it at
what
45 a run.
is
Like
expert for gorilla
it's
swords? It's
45.
45. Like even at so if XP is three times your level right now, so let's say I'm 130, so that's 400 and no 390.
Hmm.
390 AP is what, 8 runs?
Yeah, I guess it's a little more. I don't ever get that high because since I'm casual, I tend to actually use my AP as I go just because I'm always resource starved. And I think a part of that too is I really love the weapons in this game. I'm a collector. I am positive that I set myself back a good 3 months because I kept all my A's. Like I didn't burn them all as fodder, and I limit broke all of them. And then once I had them limit broke, then I would take the additional duplicates and like feed them.
Oh man,
But like
you're playing classic near here. You got to get all the weapons, huh?
a little bit, yeah. I'm like a Pokemon collector a little bit, and I know that that's absolutely not like optimal play. But this is what I mean: is depending on what you care about, it's a different game. I always have weapons that like I'm always like maybe not even halfway through what I hope to do, which is to catch up and have everything like evolved. I like the little stories on the weapons. I think it's an
No,
amazing
yeah,
touch.
the Yokotaro, that style of info dump, like you have stories on the weapons, like Dark Souls tells almost all of its lore through its equipment and its items and stuff like that. It's a
And the weird,
very
crazy stuff you pick up.
oh, absolutely, and it's just such a more interesting way to present a narrative that a lot of
Mm-hmm.
games aren't like. You're essentially letting people sort of have their own agency on how much lore do you want to know about.
Yeah. And I totally understand that these like priorities probably devoid in almost all of the serious Sinnoh players. Like They're interested in maxing out their Colo experience, and that's it. And that's fine. And that's what. But my concern is that since that's what's in all the videos, because that's what people want to see in the Twitch players, like some of these other aspects of the game are just completely like unknown to somebody who didn't actually sit down and try playing the game. They're just not covered, which is fine. But like, I think it's almost causing a crisis where the game has such a reputation for being whale oriented that all these other touches and things that aren't really meant for whales just are ignored and not talked about.
Yeah, and I think I agree that it's kind of a blessing and a curse because the game 100% is whale oriented, and there's no. It unfortunately, when you have the main draw is PvP, and the only way you get good at PvP is a wallet. Um, it is just one of those unfortunate things because it's not necessarily a skill based PvP; it's a numbers based PvP, which sucks. But
I guess it depends on what you mean by getting good at PvP, though. I mean, there are certain things that I do, as opposed to how I collect items that try and maximize Colo. Um, but I think if you are going to excel at PvP, then spending is a necessity. And like you say, I
yeah,
think that there's a difference between having a good time in Colo, like winning half your games, being comfortable in a mid-range guild, and if you're not satisfied with that, then you're not going to want to be free to play.
no, yeah, the free to play, and this is something that I've talked about with plenty of people who've played this game. And I'll preface this just so nobody calls me out on my bullshit. I love you, Tectone. You're my boy. But the first couple weeks of Sino were rough because there was a lot of information floating around and there was a lot of concrete stuff that people hadn't put down.
Yep.
And like people watching old content now will go into like Tech's old videos and go, "Oh man, I can free to play this game," and that's not how the game works anymore.
Mm-mm. It's
Like,
because people had a bad idea of how it works.
yeah,
Like an example that I remember is I remember a lot of content creators talking about. So there are these intro packs, right? When you start the game, there's like a rear guard pack,
yeah, you don't
and then
buy
there's a
them.
vanguard pack.
Don't buy them.
And they said, "Don't buy them. Don't." Let me tell you, if you aren't spending just a ridiculous amount of money, that MLB, as low and as crummy as it is, that's still in my grid, and I think it's in most people's grid that did it. Like
You'd be
that's
surprised
a lot
how
of
long that was
points.
in a lot of people's grids, though.
Well, sure. Even the people who are
Yeah,
spending tons of money, like it takes a long time for something to cycle down to below 20th of your primary weapon that your choice
yeah,
is.
especially if you're not like if you are again a slave to the gotcha gods and you're just not getting what you need out of the gotcha, which is the
Mm-hmm.
unfortunate truth for a lot of people. Like the pull rates are not great.
Yep.
There are several roles you can pull for. Like I have a bunch of L orbs in my grid that will someday get used, or that my grid, my inventory. I've got a crap ton of spears. I can almost build a paladin subgrid. It'd be about 110k, but I'm a minstrel for Christ's sake.
Right. And even if you did, they wouldn't be skilled. All those
Exactly.
spears you haven't been sinking orbs and fodder into. So that's my biggest gripe with the game is it's fine that you're a slave to the gotcha to a certain degree, but it is so difficult to figure out when you need to pivot.
Yeah,
Like
and if
because if you pivot too soon, you will screw both of your builds
yeah, because like
if
at
you aren't
the
spending a ridiculous amount of money to
yeah,
overcome the luck factor.
the throwing the money on the fire is definitely a way to catch up. But like, if my guild tomorrow is like, hey, you got to switch roles or go find another guild, like I'm just finding another guild. Like I can't.
Throwing money on the Oh, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine. Like I can't. There's no way for me to pivot into something that's not menstrual at this point in my Sino career. It's not feasible.
Right. So you have to spend more money to keep up in your current role because things haven't been going your way for your role in your pulls. But then also, like, it's hard. You have to spend a ridiculous amount of money to pivot hard enough that like whatever you have been pulling into, you can make work.
Yeah.
Like that's what I loved those first packs they had for Vanguard Rearguard. Something I think would go a long way is if they had a Paladin pack, if they had a Crusher pack, and you
Yeah,
could
if they had
put.
had a rear guard pack in the beginning, that would have served everybody massively. But it was only a Vanguard pack, and it wasn't that good. Like, it was fine, but it doesn't do me any good.
And now they have a rear guard pack, but the problem with that one is I don't remember what the L is, but like there's only one L,
Yep.
and it's for one of the roles.
I
So if
believe
you
it's a
want to be one of
cleric,
the
isn't
other
it?
roles, it doesn't even help you. I think it is a
I
staff.
think it
Yeah,
is a staff, which is
it's
fine.
the crescent staff, which is
Yeah.
fine. But the problem is that those are so, and they're also antiquated at this point. I think they were excellent for their time,
Oh, on
but
launch
I
they were
think
fine, but now they are significantly further behind.
well, and I think that we need to do a riff on it. To tell you the truth, if I were going to solve the devs problem in this regard, what I would do is I would create a number of those packs in the shop, and they would allow people like a base to get started with like, because like builds are starting to separate now. You Nobody is like salad all the skills anymore. Even the free to plays like me. I'm very firmly magic, right? And so
Yeah.
I get anything physical and it doesn't help me. I don't have enough crusher pulls to like be crusher. If I could go to the shop though, and I knew that, if I spent 4,500, seven, even up to like 8,000 gems. If I knew there was a target I could save up for over a few months and allow me to make the switch by getting 3 or 4 L weapons and MLB, that like if that many thousand was enough to get me MLBs on these mediocre to bad L's, like it would make it so that my current crusher luck could actually turn into something.
Yeah, but
And it would
it's
be
the
and it would be
unfortunate
my
part of that is it
choice.
just
It would
doesn't
be a little
work
more.
that way. Like the rates are so
No,
low.
right. I know it doesn't work that way, but I think that if you had packs like these that fit each of the different kind of spaces in the roles, people would have a little more agency to be able to lean into what the gotcha is currently giving them
No, I
if they
agree.
wanted.
I agree entirely. I
Because
think that's
currently
a
you don't have that at all.
no. There, it doesn't exist, and that's one of the couple of varied problems in the game. Like you have XP requirements right now that are almost unattainable for non day one players. Like they just upped the rank to 200. Like it would take me a month if I played it every day and run all my royal purifications down to hit 200. I'm not putting that kind of time into the game. All you competitive people can yell at me all you want. I don't fucking care. I'm not gonna do it. You're not gonna make me. And if I gotta drop out of cool kids and go to some lower bullshit guild, I'll join Rasper tomorrow. You can kiss my ass.
You know what? We got spots. I'd love to have somebody on top of me, so maybe I could, fiddle with rear guard maybe for a change. That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I don't like the idea that you have to put a lifetime of time into the game to even be mostly competitive.
You know what? I'm almost 181. And I'm sitting on 60 Puri tickets.
I'm 130. You are higher ranked than I am. But what's your CP at?
Oh, I'm 170K. So
Oh shit, yeah, you're higher than me. I'm only like 160.
Oh, really? That surprises me.
Well, it's harder as a minstrel, and my luck as a minstrel has been.
Oh, this is true. I'm Vanguard. Yeah. We easily have like a 50K advantage. I'm pretty sure.
I've told, and me and Pingle and me and Tachi have talked about this, and I mentioned this to you before, but like, I don't pull instruments off of banners. I pull instruments out of pity coins. So, like, it just...
Hey, at least that way you get good ones.
It still sucks, though.
It does suck.
Like, it's an absolute travesty that, like, the rates are so bad that you can almost not functionally play your class. Like, it's just shitty.
Well, as free to play, you have to do the usual gotcha thing. Like, I remember seeing a Zant video that totally helped me prepare correctly, I feel. And that is, like, the pity amount is 4,500. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the gems you need to get a pity. And you want to wait until, if you're free to play or RUS only, you want to save up for the 2-3 months it takes until you hit the right step up banner so that you can MLB something. Because even as free to play, you get enough legendary. Like, I am just about to the point where I'm ready to start pushing off legendaries. I've got 1 SR left. And once you start having a full grid of legendaries, what you get dupes of or not makes a big difference, right? And so by doing this, I don't have a ton of variety, but I have some that are like 2 and 3 dupes of some L's. And I think it's made a big difference for me to be myself semi-competitive in a casual guild.
Oh, absolutely. Like, and you're what your CPs? You said 180.
170.
170. I mean, you're higher than half the crushers in the guild that I'm in. So like, you're doing good, especially for a free to play player. Like everybody in my guild spends, and everybody in every guild I've ever been in has spent so far.
Well, and I've also had some luck. Part of it is picking the right banners and taking, and waiting months and just being willing to pass on things that are like maybe okay, and really like taking Xant's advice to heart. I think it was very good
No,
advice.
Xant's good folk. Like having
Uh-huh.
Xant come on and sort of give me that hour-long rundown of Sino before it came out is definitely the best time I have spent in the game because like he really set me up for success.
But at the same time, like I enjoy that that I'm able to use this knowledge this way. It's not always fun to wait and be this patient,
No, well, I mean the
but
point of
if
gotchas is to pull. Like that's the
right,
dopamine button, right?
yep, yep. These daily pulls I think have been fantastic because I actually get to pull more than once every couple months.
Yeah,
I don't have to
and
just do like a pull spree and then I'm done for a really long time. It's been
yeah,
really
them
nice.
adding the Coliseum polls and them adding the
Yep,
free daily
that too.
poll, and honestly, like at the rate that you pull S's from the free 11 poll, they could do that twice a week and it wouldn't break the economy because
Well,
there's
you say yes and no. I think that we might be getting to the point where we're too generous, too free to plays, to where maybe they won't pull as much. Actually,
I mean, I'm
like
I'm
that's what you
fine with
don't want.
that. I would still rather free to plays be capable of playing the game they wanted to play. Like there's nothing worse than getting into a game and being like, "Well, I don't get to do anything that I want to do, so why would I play the game?"
Hmm.
Like
And
it's
the
always a
extra,
double-edged sword.
absolutely. These extra pulls and things, I think they help free to play have an adequate amount of fodder for charm medals and skill upgrades.
Oh, absolutely,
Like
which is a
before then, the
massive
events were
problem.
not handing us
No.
enough. And even if they had fixed like the ability to kind of shift roles or lean into what the gotcha is giving you, if you've already sunk all your orbs into something else, that makes it even more difficult. So I think that all of these pulls that they're giving us on the daily and weekly is it's half the puzzle. Now the other half is just giving us some agency in the shop, I think.
Yeah, I think the shop options need to be varied quite a bit more specifically because they don't do a very good job of giving you options in the shop. It's like, hey, you want to buy a nightmare, and you're like, well, I don't necessarily need a nightmare, but I don't have anything else to spend money on, so like, what the fuck, guys? And there's nothing to
Well,
buy with gems, so
it's weirdly in the middle. It doesn't really help out very new players, even the ones who just are interested in playing casually. The tools for us are pretty limited. But then I get the feeling that honestly, it's not super helpful for like people who want to get right into competitive play either. Like there's the one nightmare du jour that you could purchase in MLB. But like if you're brand new and you want to compete, it would be nice if all of the paid nightmares were available, that have come up. And if you wanted to drop $600-700 and have a full set of MLB nightmares, maybe that'd be really nice for somebody who wanted to just jump in and play with their whale buddies for a bunch of money. I don't know.
yeah, and it's always and some people would look at that and be like, oh well, if all of the nightmares were available for MLB all the time, it would just be pay to win. Guess what, guys? The game's already pay to win.
It
We've
is pay to
already
win. You got to lean into it a little bit. I feel
yeah.
like they would be successful if with the shop they say, all right, we're going to separate. We're going to have things that very much cater to this end and that end rather than sitting somewhere in the middle and nobody's really happy
Yeah, well, I
with
mean,
their offering.
it's like all the vials. Like nobody is purchasing those bonus crystals that have vials on them. Nobody gives a shit about them.
I don't think so either. I haven't been.
I don't know anybody that
Either
has.
you're too patient and frugal to be like, I'll just wait until my AP regenerates and then just dump more into the events and things like me. Or I assume you have enough resources that they largely don't matter.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
at any given point, I could drop 30 skip tickets. So like, it's just crazy. But we'll go ahead and cut it for this time. I will probably
Okay.
bring Rasper back for the most part because it's good to have this kind of talk because like a lot of people don't, especially at the top, don't get to see like how the we don't get to see how the peasants play.
And I tell you what, life's not all bad as a peasant in SinoAlice, much as and that's the thing that I
Our
really am
boy's
glad
out
that
here
we talk.
farming radishes. That's all he's got.
Yeah, but it's fun. like SinoAlice, there's a lot to appreciate here, even if you're not a spender. And I'm really sad that its reputation thus far seems to have been whale or go home, because I don't think this game is that at all. And thank you for helping me talk about that a little. I really appreciate it, Spook.
No, it's no problem, man. So, I think we covered most of the stuff that we wanted to cover. I will probably bring Rasper in, especially for like the next State of Sino, just because like it's nice to have somebody to talk about like these big overarching ideas that may not necessarily have the same investment that like Tachi or Bork has. Because like me and Demic have definitely fallen back a little bit. And while Fort is still playing very hyper competitively, like he's only really doing pull videos anymore. So like it's a different set of information that I think is very important. Because you should have varied experiences coming into these things, because that's how you get more data.
Well, and I appreciate it because I think the devs get it largely that there are different kinds of investment. Monetary investment and time investment are not the same thing. And I think that the game is very friendly to people who are investing time rather than money.
Yeah, well, I mean, Alicia from Elite, he's a 190k Sork, and he is outside of Royal almost entirely free to play, but he has put his time into the game,
Mm-hmm.
and he is always top 30 no matter what. So like, I get it; it's absolutely insane. But
Yep, and we'll have to talk more, I guess, later. But I think that there's a good amount to talk about in PVE also, and its reputation for boring PVE. Maybe we
yeah,
could just
absolutely. I think we could probably do an entire
Mhm.
video on it, honestly. Um,
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's it from Rasper. So do you have anything else going on that you want anybody to know about? Are you repping anybody? Do you have a dance recital that you need everybody to show up to? What's going on?
No, actually, not really. Like, I'm just a casual player having fun. I am not a creator. I don't really have anything that an audience would be. I've been toying around with an idea, to tell you the truth, about like I'm really into those weapon stories. Like I said, that might be some kind of something fun to put on display. It's not
I
so
mean,
because I am
Cino
not a spender.
Pokelabo has a content creator thing coming out. If you need help setting it up, I'll do it. I said this in the last video. And like
We'll see.
everybody, yeah, because like
I don't want to. I don't
that
want to
is
be.
not content that anyone else is doing.
I don't want to be too committal because I don't want anyone listening to be disappointed that it doesn't happen. But
Oh, they're
like,
disappointed in me all the time. It's fine. It's
ah,
it's totally cool.
but it has super been a fun time here, kind of dipping my toe into it a little bit and having this conversation. I appreciate the work you guys do, even though the experience is different than mine. Like, um, it's fun to follow along and watch, and it's exciting. Like, you guys are doing the exciting stuff. What I do is boring, but I just hope it's also not ignored. So I really appreciate you putting the spotlight on the free to play experience a little.
No, I mean it's not a problem. I am less
I have
concerned
nothing
with the
else.
people that spend money than the people that don't. Because like they're two different experiences, and if the way to heat yourself at night is to throw money on the fire, then that's what you're gonna do anyway.
Yeah.
So, all right, everybody, like,
Okay.
comment, subscribe. Tell Rasper how much you enjoyed it in the comments. If you guys have a topic that you want him and I to cover in the future, just leave it, and we'll sort of talk it out and sort of script some stuff for you. But I hope you guys had fun. I hope you had fun, Rasper.
I did. It's been a pleasure. I hope everyone had fun too, and I hope that it hasn't been too much of a snooze fest.
No, I'm the only one yawning. It's because I have a breathing problem. It's fine. All right.
Alrighty.
Merry
You
Happy
take
New
care,
Year,
Scoop.
everybody. You have a good one, Rasper.
Happy New Year. Good pulls, everyone.
Good
Good
pulls
luck.
and great year.